Hello, Capybara crew. Welcome to our build series where we're going to go through and refresh every single house in The Sims. For the base game, at least, I'm going to go ahead and keep it just to base game. I will use debug and move objects. We're going to start with the Crick Cabana here. We're going to go in and we also want to keep it to the budget. So we want to keep it around the same. So if it's a starter home, we still want you to be able to afford it as a starter home. And we want to, we don't want to reduce number of bedrooms, bathrooms. We can add if we have the budget, but we don't want to reduce it. We want to keep it as is. So this was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home. So we're going to keep, and it stays a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. And it stays a 2-bedroom, 1-bath with just some reconfiguring of the floor plan. You can kind of see here that back bedroom doesn't even have a wall separating it into its own space, which is just wild. Like, it's an $11,000 house. There's no reason for you to not put a wall there, especially when there is a fully closed-in bedroom. Like, it's not like it's a studio. So this was my first attempt at the floor plan. We ended up changing it. We actually add a bump out for the bathroom so that we can really maximize our living space. Here's where I realized that I did the money cheat before I deleted all of the things. So I had way too much money. I had to redo my money again. And you'll see I moved the bay window area over so that I can shrink the porch. While I love the front porch for aesthetics, I think they look fantastic. For gameplay, there's not a whole lot of functionality. So I end up shrinking it. Especially in a starter home, I feel like there's not really a need for a huge porch. It looks, don't get me wrong, it looks great. I love the way a nice big front porch looks. But the cost for the space is negligible. So it's not something I always keep. So in this case, we end up shrinking it quite a bit. We actually shrink it even more than this. Yeah, see, I keep messing with that bay window and moving it forward and backward and forward and backward. And it ends up, I think it ends up staying there, but I'm not 100% sure. I believe that is how it stays, though. And so here's where I decided I wanted to go ahead and add a bump out for the bathroom instead of keeping it on the interior so that we could maximize that living space. I don't remember how I solved that. Oh, I just put a piece of flooring on top of it. The roofing was a real challenge for me. And there we go. So I figured out what roof I wanted. I couldn't figure out if I wanted to do a round one or... it takes me a little while to get the roofing sorted and figure out what pitch I wanted everything at and get everything to match. And then the front porch roof was a nightmare. I couldn't figure it out. I think I eventually just take it off. I don't think we had and extend the eave at the front when I shrink the porch again. Because it doesn't match up to there, and then it sticks out on the side. I hated it. I hated everything about it. It was awful. I even tried the hipped roof so that maybe I could flatten it all the way, but then it still sticks out weird. See, look. So it either gets nothing or it sticks out of the edge, which looks abysmal. And for those roofs, you can't drag in just one side like you can for the half-hipped roofs. I end up just taking it. Yeah. See, I give up and just take the ceiling off altogether. Somehow plants ended up in the ceiling. Not sure how that happened. And then we talk about colors. So I kind of look around, you'll see in a second, at the other houses in the area. And I realize they're all white and blue. And then there's that one greenhouse. But it's a lime green. It's not and I go back and forth. I move a bunch of stuff around. I was really struggling with the size of this, and we ended up having to change it again at the end. I wanted to keep it a base game size. My goal was to put a side yard in. We ended up not having the budget for it, but there's plenty of room to grow, which is kind of the goal for these, right? So I play with the colors a little bit. I really like that orange. We'll probably do one of the other houses in that orange, but I end up not going with it today. You'll see I put a bunch of colors on. I think I land on the dark green with the thicker slats. Yeah. I go back and forth a bunch of times, but that is where I end up staying, is with that green. That green is so freaking pretty. And then, of course, the best base game roof. I liked the texture. I liked the white foundation. I liked the texture on this too, which was nice. I keep those slats, but I do change them to white so that they match. And I end up using the new, mostly the new windows from the Happy Birthday event, which turns out pretty well. I used something different on the bay windows because I've mixed feelings about when the window is the whole tile and it stretches on the side. Depending on the look you're going for, the windows you're using, it can look good or it can look awful. And I didn't like the way it looked on these when it stretched, so I went ahead and I put the some other base game windows on the front there, some taller base game windows on the front there. Yeah, when you mess with diagonal walls like that, it always leaves you with like a weird gap. I don't know. And here's where I go back and forth. I like the Happy Birthday door, but it's a little more modern than the house. Then these ones are so expensive. I end up sticking with the Happy Birthday door. It is really pretty. It lets in a lot of light. And when you're on a budget, having windows, see, like, those stretch, and I don't like that. Then those are too small. I end up going with these. I go back and forth, and then I was going to use those for the rest, but then I decided I didn't like that. Then I decided I was going to put in, that's going to be meant to be the office. That's the office that we start with, but we end up taking it out. I go through 100 of the arches. I put in spandrels. I go back to the arch. It ends up being a little bit bananas. And then in the end, I don't even keep the office. So I go through all of this pain for no reason. Like, that looks awful. But I hated it. So I went back to the arch. I don't know which one I landed on. There we go. That kind of 2-tile one. And then I decided I wanted to make sure I had the money for all the things, right? So I painted all the walls. I put in all the flooring. And you'll see I grab, like, the bare minimum. So I grabbed, like, a kid's bed, a double bed, a fridge, a stove, 2 counters and a sink, a toilet, a shower, and a bathroom sink, so that we can make sure we have all the things. Eventually I realized that some of the stuff I grabbed was not base game, and I end up having to go back. Yeah, I deleted all that because all the really grungy stuff is from Get Together. Get Together? I think it's Get Together. Or City Living. City Living, because I think it was for the apartment, so you could have, like, a grungy apartment. There we go, and I went and grabbed the actual base game ones. I messed with my lighting again, so there's lights all over. And I start with the easy stuff. So I know I need a bathroom. I know I need a mirror. I mess with that layout. Just super easy. I decide I want to use the new tile from the update. And I think I used the linoleum from, yeah, I keep that. The linoleum from the Time Traveler event. I actually really like it. And then I use the other linoleum in the kitchen. Which is great. Am I going to start shrinking it again? No, not yet. in the end, I look at the budget and we're way over, and I end up doing a lot of shrinking and rechanging of stuff. So I delete stuff. I try to use the new base game cabinets, but they're $255, which is not super, super expensive, right? They're by far and away not even close to the most expensive counters in the game, but they end up being too expensive for our purposes. Maybe in one of the other starter homes we'll be able to use them because they're not all as inexpensive as Crick Cabana. Crick Cabana has a really limited budget. So, you okay, babe? We'll likely be able to use those later on. And yeah, I was having a hard time with that bed. It kept wanting to go into the wall no matter what I did. I ended up having to alt place it because it was so far away from the wall no matter what I did. Sorry about the banging. That is my doggo. He's old and not super stable. Then I realized I had no windows anywhere in the house. Ooh, gablahu, babe. And I went in and added windows. Those are some of the new Happy Birthday windows, which I actually really love them. They're just like a standard, plain, modern window. Not modern like modern, but like not, they're not like Victorian or, you know, they're just a standard latch window. Which we were lacking. The only one we had, I think, was the high school years one, which is the one that opens, like where you can use it as a door. Here we go. Yeah, and then I realized that was too expensive. I went ahead and replaced the counters. I decided that I want to do 3 chairs, but then there's not enough room for 3 chairs because there's meant to be, you know, 2 adults and a child. Potentially 2 adults and a child in this house, but it's not, ends up not being space. I probably could have added a 3rd chair, but I don't think I do. And then I realized that the layout here is a little bit wonky, and I do some moving of windows, because where I want to put the window would put the window into the bathroom. I really struggled with this. You'll see at the end when I kind of redo all of it. I thought about a fireplace, but they were all really expensive. We end up with the cheapest TV setup, but we needed something for fun. So my goal in these is to have all of the things that you need, and think about skill building. So something for fun, we need something for fun, something for hygiene, something for sleep, like all of the needs of the Sims, right? So skill building, I think about an easel. I don't think I end up keeping it. Skill building is always kind of priority numero uno, right? Because that's the whole thing you need to do in order to be able to be successful. I think that's the only rug we end up with in the whole house. Rugs are so expensive, and like all the cheap ones didn't size up properly. I forgot that the outside of this house was green when I was choosing my interior wall color, and I ended up with green again, which I think is fine, but I'm kind of amused by it. It gives me a little bit of a chuckle. So here's where I decide I'm going to set up the office. I'm like, I have $3,000 left. That's plenty. I am so over budget right now. So over budget. We end up at like $14,000 or something, and then I delete a bunch of stuff, and I shrink a bunch of stuff, and we do not end up keeping the office. Which, I mean, now I think it's kind of funny, but I was so frustrated when I was doing it. I was like, why? We even end up with, like, we have the cheapest bed in the game. Everything is cuckoo nanas. Do you realize, you'll see, I put in the dollhouse, and then when I'm like trying to figure out how much everything is, that thing's $800. That's bananas. $800. What? I think we end up with just Blarfy in the kids' room. Because $800 is way too many dollars. I do like the kids' room the way I first do it. But then, yeah, we end up with, we end up having to re-kajigger some budget. And you'll see I delete this bed because I'm tired of it and go grab another one that's a little bit more expensive. And we end up having to go back to that one in the end. I think, oh, that's lovely. Let's use this one and we'll make it red. It'll be so nice. It is not nice. It does not stay. Too expensive. What do we end up doing? I don't remember what I end up doing with the walls here. Oh, we end up with a brown. First, yeah, I do this one first, then I decide it's too pink, and then I go back to a more cool toned one. I love that rug, but it's not big enough. It doesn't size up right. That I loved. I think it looks great. And that's when I decide that it's too pink and try to change it. I also go to the one without trim because it's less expensive. Only like a tiny bit, but every penny counts. I think we end up deleting those too. We do that. Here's when I figure out that this is $800 and I lose my mind. Get out of here. And I think, okay, now I have $1,000. Let me put a bench over here by the front door. Let me tell you what, that bench does not stay. A lot of what you're seeing now looks great, right? The front is a little bit weird. It's a little bit empty. Shrinking it actually really helps with that. But we end up deleting so much stuff and shrinking this down by several tiles. I believe we make the porch even smaller. We end up doing debug landscaping. Here we go. We're going in with our landscaping. I do a bunch and then I realize that I don't have the base game filter on. I delete it all and then most of what I had placed was base game. I also realized that even though I chose spring, it's like early spring, so it's nothing is in bloom. So before I do my final, before I upload it to the gallery, I actually let it play through several days so stuff starts to bloom and isn't so ugly. And then I go, oh, wait, that is all base game. Great. So I put it all back. Thank God for undo. I grab some flowers, some purple and some white flowers, and then I have those orange debug flowers, which are nice. I realized my thing is off. I love those pine trees because you can place them and they kind of hang off the lot and they like make it, which is funny because I feel like I don't see a ton of pine trees in base game, but I mean, they're there. But they kind of hang off the lot and like help it blend into the world a little bit more. You can do that with a lot of the debug stuff, which I think is really great. Then I go in and do some terrain paint, and then we end up shrinking and moving everything, and I end up having to delete it and do it all over again. And I actually end up not liking it as much as I like the original terrain paint, but what can you do, you know? You know? What can you do? Not a whole lot. So, oh no, 14,780. Okay. Let us delete some things. And I delete so much stuff. And we end up just barely under budget. But we still couldn't afford a rug. I probably could have put another chair at the dining table. We go back to the cheapy bed. I go ahead and get rid of the computer. We're down to 12. I'm like panic deleting things. Like, what can I get rid of? I make sure that all of my plants are actually debugged and didn't cost money. We end up with no curtains. My hope is that as I do this too, I'll improve my building skills, which are I mean, better than they used to be, but are still not super duper. Here we go. We're shrinking. We're shrinking. We move the dining table. We move the kitchen all up one tile. Move that wall. I love doing that when there's not a wall that goes all the way across for your kitchen. Doing that little diagonal tile, I feel like it makes it a better transition. I'm trying to see if I can afford a dresser. I cannot so far. I think I do end up with one at the end, but I don't actually remember. We'll see in a second. Still over. And I think, maybe I could shrink it more. So I move that. I move Blarfy. I pull everything forward. Now I'm at 11.3. The sizing of my living room is a little bit better. I kind of move some stuff around. And I believe I end up getting a dresser in. I do. I thought so. I was like, I think I get the dresser in, but I couldn't actually remember. We shrink the porch again. Because we're not using that space. It's wasted space. There needs to be something there. I don't love it. Like, you can just do the stairs directly up and it makes that platform at the top. But I don't love that look if I can avoid it. There are times where I do it. Especially if you're going to have like a really wide staircase. It's actually kind of easy to do. But in this case, I didn't love it. So, you see, I deleted all my my terrain paint. I figured out my roof was a mess. Here we go. And then I extend that front eave to kind of cover the front of the porch. We go ahead and add a path using terrain paint because terrain paint is free. We named it the Crick Cabana Refresh 25. 2-bedroom, 1 bath. I thought about trying to make it a tiny home and then remembered that we're doing base game only. So I didn't. I add another tree since I'm not able to put any of the yard stuff in, and then we go back and do some more terrain paint. I realized I still had it on hard from making my path. I redo this like several times because look how dark that is. I soften it way up again and go back and do it again. I still think I did a better job the first time on the terrain paint. But terrain paint and I are not friends. I struggle with terrain paint. Then I figured out it's ugly, and I let her play through until some stuff started to bloom at least a little. And we uploaded it to the gallery. We uploaded it to the gallery using hashtag Castafortis, hashtag Capybara Crew, hashtag Crick Cabana 25. So this is available on the gallery for you right now if you are interested in downloading it. It has plenty of room to grow, but it also has everything that you need to get started. You can do skill building. You can have a full family. Two adults and 1 child will fit in this home. I hope that you had fun doing this with me, and I will see y'all next time. Bye, everyone.